morning, I'm Captain Gentry of Jackson Fire Rescue. Today we're going to be covering vertical ventilation. So I have two instructors that are going to help cover this subject, Firefighter Brandon Page and Firefighter Tim Blackroff. So for today's training, we got a training plan of vertical ventilation consisting of an in-classroom portion as well as a skill portion at the training facility on the roof prop. So we're going to use the ground ladders, crew of two, as well as simulating cutting a vertical ventilation hole on an elevated roof prop surface. So for our training plan, we're going to start, like I said, in here for about an hour or so of PowerPoint and go down to the training site. I appreciate you guys all joining us today for this event. We need some more guys flowing in since they're on a call, coming back and forth, but we're going to have Brandon Page kick it off covering ground ladders. He's got a handout for you guys to learn that. We also have a test you guys will have over the two chapters, ground ladders and vertical ventilations. Bathrooms are behind you. If there's an emergency, the shelter is to the left. Exits are marked on each side. And then we will also take breaks at the end of each PowerPoint chapter. So I will pass around a training sign-in sheet for all of you in attendance. Please sign under attendance name. And then once everything is graded for your skill and your quiz, I'll place those scores as well. Okay. Firefighter Page, I'll turn it over to you to start teaching about ground ladders.
Hello, as everyone knows, I'm Firefighter Page, as Captain Gentry has introduced me as. Today we're going to go over ground ladders. Some of the things we're going to go over are the safety recommendations of it, the parts of the ground ladder, and proper ways of how to carry them. We're going to go over how to secure them, different types of raises for the ground ladders. So there are a lot of different parts of the ground ladders. There are the beam section, bed section, butt section, all the parts that make it up, all play different roles in how ground ladders are used. On the diagram here, you pass all these handouts. We've got pictures on this. Pass those down. So all the different parts of the ground ladder. So there's extension ladders and just regular roof ladders, or single section component ground ladders. They all typically are made up of the same components. So on the single roof ladder components, there's the butt section, which is down at the bottom, and then you have the hooks at the top. Some of them on single ladders don't have hooks because you don't need to secure them to the top of the roof. Hooks open, they kind of go outwards so they can kind of hook onto the top of the roof, or if you need to point them through a window, you can put them through the sill of the window to secure them that way. Closed, they're folded inwards to kind of make like an M McDonald's kind of shape, so that way you know if they're closed or open. On the beam of the ladder, which is the long section here, there are rungs that run in between it, and securing each rung is a truss block, and that is what the rung is attached to give it structural rigidity. And then the tip of the ladder is the rounded part. So the butt section has butt spurs, which are kind of like sharp teeth that dig into the ground and secure the ladder so it doesn't slide as easily. And then the tip is smooth, so you don't want to make sure you don't have it upside down or it won't be secure to the ground. On extension ladders, it is comprised of at least one or more fly sections, and the length of the ladder is determined by its fully extended length. So if you have like a 24-foot extension ladder, it'll probably be compressed down to about 12 feet, and if it's fully extended, it's 24 feet. So there's two different fly sections. On some ladders, it'll specify on if the fly section should be out or in. On our current ladders that we have on our trucks, it doesn't matter if the fly section is in or out. but just make sure you refer back to the manufacturer's specifications on that. Can anybody list me some of the parts of a ladder?
Rails.
Rungs, beam,
Fly.
yep. Alright, so next we're going to distinguish among different types of ladders. In the fire service, there are typically about 5 types of ground ladders that we use. There's single, roof, folding, extension, and combination. Depending on what kind of structures you have in your districts, depends on, or dictates what kind of ladders you should have on the apparatus. So single ladders, they consist of just one section of ladder that is not adjustable, so it is a fixed length. Common sections, or common lengths of that can range anywhere between 6 to 32 feet, with the most common being 12 to 24 range. They can either have, single ladders can have hooks, which will make it a roof ladder, or it'll just have a smooth butt set, or tip section without any hooks on there. They are, as I said, equipped with folding hooks, make it a roof ladder, which is great for anchoring on pitched roofs. Just anchor it on the peak of that roof and it will not slide back down. They typically lie flat on the roof, so it gives you a stable surface to work off of for vertical ventilation purposes, or just any operations that you're doing on top of the roof. Folding ladders, they're used for getting into attics and crawl spaces of structures. They are nice, compact ladders that fold into like basically a single beam configuration, and then when they're unfolded, they lock into place so that they're nice and sturdy. Makes it easy to maneuver through hallways and get them into tight areas that you usually can't get a full single ladder or roof ladder into. Extension ladders consist of a base or a bed section and has at least one or more fly sections. Full length to which it is extended is what the length of the ladder will be labeled as, and it'll be able to be adjusted incrementally, so you don't need to fully extend the ladder to its fullest length. You can stop it on each rung and it will latch into place using a ball system. Combination ladders, they can be used to be like self-supporting A-frame step ladders or a single or extension ladder. So an example of that would be like the little giant we have on engine 13. It is a combination ladder, so it is an extendable A-frame step ladder, so it can be raised or lowered, or you can extend it outwards so it's completely flat like a single or extension ladder. Common lengths are 8 to 16 feet. And the most common length is about 10 feet. Other ladders, so some manufacturers have started making multi-purpose ladders that are good for just regular use, and they also meet NFPA requirements. The difference between commercial and fire service variations may include weight limitations, height, available configurations. A-frame ladders with extendable beams are an example of that. Multiple section folding ladders and step ladders of various heights. What are 5 types of ground ladders? Single. Extension.
Roof.
Yep, there's roof. Combination. Yep, folding is another one. Alright, next section, we're going to identify general guidelines for ladder safety. Safety operations for raising and alternatively lowering ladders. So operating ladders, you want to make sure you're following all your department's SOPs and SOGs. Make sure you're wearing full protective equipment, gloves, helmet, anything that your department SOPs require you to wear. Make sure you choose the correct ladder first. If you need an extension ladder, make sure you grab an extension ladder. If you're not sure if your single ladder or roof ladder will work, make sure you just grab an extension ladder, because if it's too much, that's fine. If it's not enough, that's not a good thing. Use muscle legs. Don't lift with your back. Make sure you're using proper lifting techniques. If it's too heavy for you to handle, don't muscle it and hurt yourself. Make sure you ask for help. And use adequate number of firefighters for each carry and raise of the ladder. Do not raise any ladders within 10 feet of electrical lines. Don't want to get electrocuted. Secure the tip and anchor the foot of the ladder when in use. So you want to make sure that the tip of the ladder is not going to slide or slip down on you, and that the feet are properly secured, whether you're using that like a section of webbing to secure it to the base of the structure or something around there, or having another firefighter butt the ladder so that it doesn't slide out while somebody's on there operating. Excuse me. You want to grasp the ladder beams when extending or retracting, and make sure that you keep your fingers out of the way of the fly section, because if that comes back down and your fingers are in the way, you can get seriously injured. And make sure that you ensure that the hook and pawls are seated over the rungs and that they're locked. You don't want to have it partially locked and somebody get on there and it just slides down while they're on there. And make sure that the ladder is stable before climbing. Give it like a good little shake back and forth. Make sure it's not going to just tip over when somebody's on there, and it's not going to slide out from underneath them. Use caution when moving ladders sideways. It's easy to get them off balance whenever you're trying to slide them sideways down a structure or picking them up and moving them that way. Make sure you're not rushing or jumping around on a ladder. You're climbing it nice and calmly and methodically. Make sure you're using caution when placing more than one person on a ladder. Whenever applicable, make sure you're just using one person per ladder. If you need a second person on a ladder, if you have the resources, throw another ladder next to that one and have the person operate off that ladder. Use a leg lock or a ladder belt when working from a ground ladder. That way, if you fall off balance, you're not going to fall all over the ground. If you need to relocate or reposition a ladder, only do it when you're ordered to do so and whenever it's safe to do so. And use ladders for their intended purposes only. Don't use them as like battering rams to open doors or anything like that. And use ropes to secure the foot of unattended ladders to a stationary object. That way, if somebody is walking and they hit it, it doesn't just slide out and fall. It's more or less anchored to that object, so it has less tendency to be manipulated accidentally. Before relocating a positioned ladder, ensure it is no longer needed at that location. So if somebody goes into a window to perform buy-side operations, you want to make sure that nobody's still in that room whenever you're moving that ladder, because if they need to come back out and the ladder's not there, they're now stuck in that room. Make sure ladders that are coming in contact with power sources, make sure that power source is dead, or just avoid that situation altogether if possible. Sliding down a ladder either feet or head first, even in an emergency, is unsafe and may result in serious injury or death. So keep that in consideration whenever you're doing bailouts. Alright, preventing personal injuries when using ladders. So make sure you're utilizing the correct number of firefighters. Don't try to operate a ladder by yourself if it's too much for you to handle. Bend the knees and keep the back straight when possible and lifting the ladder. That way you don't end up straining your back and making yourself useless on scene. Lift on the command of a firefighter, so if you're lifting as a team, make sure that you guys are counting down and you're lifting at the same time so that you're in sync and not just one person's lifting the ladder for the other one, because that could result in injury. It should occur in unison, and reverse the procedure for lifting when it is necessary to place the ladder on the ground before raising it. So make sure that you're still in communication with the other person and you're lifting it as a team and raising it as a team. Mitigating the hazards, so identify the presence of overhead electrical wires. It just goes back to situational awareness that we're all taught in Fire 1 and 2. Make sure you're aware of your surroundings. The best way to prevent injury is to be ready for it. Identify any obstructions such as branches or building features, so you don't want to be throwing up a ladder and get it stuck in a tree or have it stuck on a windowsill underneath it or something like that. Properly position extension ladders in the fly section, so if your ladder specifies which way the fly section should be if it's out, make sure you have it out, or if it doesn't matter, then don't pay any attention to that, but make sure you just refer back to the manufacturer specifications of the ladder you're using, and make sure you properly tie the halyard after you raise an extension ladder. That prevents people from tripping on it or grabbing it and messing with the ladder, or just it getting pulled and the ladder falling down. All ladders conduct electricity regardless of material. It doesn't matter if it's a fiberglass ladder, a wood ladder, aluminum ladder, they'll all conduct electricity. Any ladder that's in contact with live electrical wires can electrocute you, so make sure that nothing is touching electrical lines. And size up and mitigate any electrical hazards. So check overhead before you throw a ladder, make sure that there's no exposed wires inside of the house or anything like that that you're laddering. Occupational OSHA regulations and worker safety documentation refers to this distance as the circle of safety. Raising ladders when hazards are present. So as you can see from the illustration, you don't want to just try to raise the ladder through the power lines. It does not work very well. You want to make sure that if you need to, you can raise it on the beam instead of butting it and raising it through the rung orientation. That way you can raise it up in a narrower area of operation and avoid those power lines altogether. All ladders will conduct electricity when wet, regardless of construction materials, so that goes back to anything touching electrical lines will conduct electricity, whether dry or wet. Position of fly, section, or on or extension ladders. Each ladder manufacturer specifies whether a ladder should be placed with fly in toward the structure or out away from the structure. Consult your department SOPs and SOGs on which way the ladder should be placed. And some departments have ladders intended to be used with fly out, and some with fly in, and some where it just doesn't matter if it flies out or in. Once an extension ladder is resting against the structure and before it's climbed, secure it so that it does not move. Anything such as the excess halyard to prevent it from becoming tangled or rope in the rope when ascending or descending the ladder. Some halyards are closed loop halyards where it's just connected, so it's just one continuous loop. So when you're raising it, you don't have to worry about re-securing it. It will stay in that same area. Some general safety guidelines to follow when working with ladders. Anybody have any ideas what those might be?
Back in service.
Watch for overhead instructions.
Overhead instructions.
30-30-10, back in service. 957.
Maybe secure it, make sure the halyard's all tied up so that it doesn't become a trip hazard or entanglement hazard.
Lift and move as a team.
Lift and move as a team, that's a good one. How terrain? You gotta make sure it's not on even terrain and that's not gonna tip over when you're on it. How can you typically determine if an extension ladder should be placed with a fly in or out?
Should be listed on the beams.
Yep. So it should be specified by the manufacturer and also listed in the department's SOGs and SOPs. Alright, section 4, we're going to explain the proper actions to take when carrying ground ladders. On pumping apparatus, 1 or 2 firefighters should be able to remove the ladder. This should be easily accessible so that you don't need to have a whole bunch of people working just to get a ladder off of the truck. On air apparatus, 3 or 4 firefighters may be required, like on our ladder 15. The higher up extension ladders, you have to step up on a platform to grab them. It's best to have 2 people on the platforms and 2 people on the ground. That way the people on the platform can hand it down to the people on the ground. That way you're not trying to step off of the platform carrying the ladder. In most cases, ladders are carried butt end forward. Anybody have any ideas on why that is?
So that way you can visualize where you're going to place it and immediately have the butting into the ground.
Exactly. That way you know what you're doing and where you're going to put it. When personnel are working on a roof or upper stories, at least 2 means of egress are required. So that can be a ground ladder on one side and a ground ladder on the other side of the structure, or a ground ladder and an aerial, or any other ways, but there has to be 2 means of egress. Selecting a ladder to reach a specific point requires the ability to judge distance. As I said earlier, make sure that you're grabbing a ladder that is going to possibly be too long and not long enough. Select the correct ladder length for various ladder placements. Not all sides of the house are going to be the same height. If it has a walkout basement around back and it looks like a ranch style house in the front, the back's obviously going to need a longer ladder than the front will. Determine how far ladders reach. So the length of the ladders will be listed on them, and that is the maximum extended length of the ladders. Measurement of the total length of a single section ladder and the maximum extended length of an extension ladder. Single roof and folding ladders must meet NFPA 1960 requirements, and they are required, and that is to be required to have the measured length equal to decimated length. Maximum extended length of extension ladders may be as much as 6 inches, less than designated length. So there is a little bit of variation in there. Selecting ladder lengths for various ladder placements. So extend a ladder a minimum of 3 to 5 rungs beyond the roof edge. That allows you to provide a footing and a handhold for getting on and off the ladder. That way you're not stepping down off of a roof, you're just stepping onto the ladder from a roof. Place the tip of the ladder even with the top of a window at the upwind side of it to gain access to a window. So whenever you do that and you have it next to a window, the benefit of that is if you're clearing the window and you have the ladder below the window, you're just knocking all the glass onto yourself. When you're next to the window and the tip of the ladder is at the top of it, you can get next to that window when you're clearing it and the glass won't fall on you. So make sure you're at the upwind side, that way whenever you bust the window, smoke's not just going to blow out right into you. And placing the tip of the ladder below the windowsill is good for rescue operations and getting access into that room. Building walls or parapets that extend more than 6 feet above the roof may require use of an additional ladder. So some of the commercial buildings around here will have a parapet, which is basically just a wall that extends above the roof. So it's good to pre-plan in your districts to know which buildings have those, so you know when you're laddering it that you're going to have to take another ladder up with you in order to get access to the actual roof. To assist firefighters to and from the roof, place a roof or straight ladder on the roof side of the parapet and next to the extension ladder. So you don't want to have it right at the tip of the extension ladder where you have to like basically pivot 180 degrees. You want to be able to get to the top of that and then swing over to the other ladder and go down it. Ground ladder carried on apparatus may be mounted by hanging it on a beam in racks on the side of the apparatus. I don't think we have any trucks currently that are mounted like that. Standing on the lower beam in a compartment, both our front right apparatus, that is 23 and 13, both have our ladders on the beam in the compartment at the rear of the truck, or no, 23 is flat lay, 13 is on the beam. Laying flat in the compartment on 23's ladders are mounted that way, or in a mechanically operated rack that lowers ladders from the top. None of our apparatus have that. To avoid injury, the rack should be raised to original standing storage position after selecting the appropriate ladder. So if we did have a rack that would lower the ladders down, you want to make sure you raise that back up. That way it's not hanging in somebody's walking area where they can hit their head on it or cause injury to themselves. Alright, so base knowledge for ground ladders mounted on apparatus. So it is important to know that on the apparatus what the lengths are and where the location of the ladders are and each type of the ladder that is on the apparatus. Make sure you know how to store the ladders, whether it's you have them butt end in or butt end facing out. That way you know whenever you grab the ladder off the truck, you know which orientation is coming off of. Know how the ladders are nested together, so if they have to go in a certain orientation or they can be stacked a certain way, make sure you know which ladder goes in which spot and how to remove one nested ladder from the other. You got to know whether your whether the extension ladder's fly is located on the inside or the outside when the ladder is stored on the side of the apparatus, and how to secure your ladders in place. Many departments mark ladders to indicate which rungs go in or near the brackets. So on the side of engine 13, or ladder 15, where you mount the ladders on the side, there's brackets, and each rung, it has to go in a specific place on that rung, and those rungs are marked, so you know which rungs are mounted onto that bracket. So removing mounted ladders, first you have to unlatch the securing device, whether it's a handle that pulls out and rotates or a latch that has to be undone. Lift the ladder off the bracket into the correct carrying position and remove any ladder protective covers. So on ladder 15, there's a protective cover on the back of the ladders. Make sure that comes off before we start taking it where we need to use it. Moving ladder stored internally in compartments. So first you want to open the compartment to gain access to the ladders and then slide the ladder out to the proper carrying point. Then you'll want to use multiple firefighters if it's required to carry the ladder, and make sure that they stand on either side of the horizontally racked ladder and take their assigned location as the ladder is pulled out. And then once the ladder has been removed from the apparatus, firefighters should reposition on the same side of the ladder for carrying. Carrying ladder safety, make sure you avoid any obstructions, whether it's ground obstructions, objects in your way, stairs, anything like that. Maintain situational awareness of other firefighters at the scene. You want to be swinging the ladder around behind you and hit someone with it or run into someone. Lift the ladder with your legs rather than the back. Scan for obstructions, other people, trip hazards. Use an appropriate number of personnel to carry the ladder. Make sure you're carrying the ladder as a team that you're communicating. Identify one member of your lift team as a team leader, so they'll be the ones that count. Like, we're going to lift 1, 2, 3, and you lift. Carry roof ladders with hooks closed, that way you don't hook onto things or snag things. Carry ladders with the butt end first to transition to raise the ladder. Carrying the forward end of a ladder at eye level impedes the carrier's balance and visibility. It also increases the risk of striking someone in the head with the butt spurs. So what that means is whenever you're carrying the ladder, make sure that the butt section is kind of angled downwards a little bit. That way it's not up in front of you and you're not going to ram into someone with it. That way if it hits someone on accident, it's just going to hit their legs. Alright, how do the designated length and reach of a ladder differ? No. So the designated length is how long the ladder is, and the reach of a ladder is how far it will actually reach. For extension ladders, they have a maximum difference of about 6 inches between the designated length and the reach of the ladder.
Duty officer, station 2, engine 23, respond to the Interstate 55 for a MVA at the 99 northbound. There'll be a male subject with leg pain and a female with chest pain. Interstate 55, mile marker 99 at the northbound.
Alright, sorry about that interruption. How do you remove mounted ladders from an apparatus? So, if the Yep. So ladders that are mounted on the side, there's hooks you can pull off in order to get them off the apparatus. Alright. Placing ground ladders. We're going to identify basic considerations and requirements for ground ladder placements. So whenever you're placing a ground ladder, you want to make sure that you are aware of the presence of any overhead electrical wires or obstructions, ground conditions, so if the ground's soft, uneven, slick, you've got to make sure you're aware of all of that. Building structural integrity, you don't want a ladder or building that is going to collapse and is not structurally sound. Wind direction and speed, that's especially important for whenever you're venturing windows and making entry into the structure through a window. Appropriateness of the chosen ladder, you want to make sure if you need an extension ladder that you grab one that's going to be long enough, or if you need a roof ladder that you grab the roof ladder. And structural features, whether there is a parapet on some commercial structures or windows that are not actually windows on some buildings. Factors that affect ground ladder placement. Two objectives are to be met when placing ground ladders, and that is the position of the ladder is properly placed for its intended use, and that you place the butt section of the ladder at a proper distance from the building for safe and easy climbing. So a good way to do that is you put your toes at the butt section of the ladder and put your arms out, and that'll let you know if it's at the correct angle or not. Use caution when deploying ground ladders to avoid placing them on ice, snow, or slippery surfaces unless the means to prevent slipping are employed. So the only way you'd be able to do that to prevent the ladder from slipping is if you secure it to the ground or to the structure, whether that's by using a rope or a section of webbing. That way the butt section does not slide out away from the structure. Using a ladder for entry or rescue from a window. So whenever you throw a ladder to make entry into a window or rescues from a window, you want to make sure that the tip of the ladder is below the windowsill. That way you can climb off the ladder and into the window, and if you need to get out quickly, the ladder is right there for you to do so. And if the opening is wide enough, put the ladder rungs 2 or 3 rungs above the window if the window is wide enough to allow you to do so. Most bedroom windows are usually just a single section window, so that's not really able to do that because you just won't have enough room to step around the ladder. And allow room besides it to facilitate entry and rescue. Place ladders at least 2 points on different sides of the building. So if you ladder one window, make sure you ladder a window on a different side of the building. Same with laddering roofs. Avoid placing ladders over openings where they might be exposed to heat or direct flame contact. So when you're laddering a roof, make sure it's not over top of the window. Make sure it's to the side of that window. And position the ladder directly in front of a window when the ladder is to be used to support a smoke ejector to remove smoke from the structure after fire extinguishment. So if you're laddering to place a fan on the ladder, make sure it's going over the window and a little bit further back. That way it's able to push air into it. And place the ladder tip on the wall above the window opening for it. Things to avoid when placing ladders. Avoid placing them where they may come in contact with overhead obstructions, whether that's trees, electrical lines, anything like that. Avoid placing ladders on uneven terrains or soft spots. That way the ladder doesn't sink down or tip over whenever somebody is climbing it for operations. And avoid placing ladders in front of doors or other paths of travel that firefighters may be using for evacuation or just regular firefighter operations. And avoid placing ladders on top of sidewalk, elevator, trapdoors, or sidewalk bed lights. And do not place ladders against unstable walls or surfaces. Establish angle between ladder and ground. So as you see there, the firefighter is using his feet at the very bottom and putting his arms out to the ladder so you know it's at the correct climbing angle. Distance of the butt from the building establishes angle between ladder and ground. Placing the ladder butt too close to the building reduces ladder stability because it will be too vertical, and when you get weight up higher on there, it has a higher tendency of tipping or falling backwards. Desired angle of inclination is approximately 75 degrees. In certain rescue situations, the desired angle of inclination may differ. So if you're trying to get somebody out of a one-story window on like a backboard or a Stokes basket, you're going to use that as like a slide. You want to have it at a shallower angle, so like 45 degrees or shallower than that. That way, you have more controlled descent sliding down that ladder. What are some of the general guidelines for placing ladders?
Make sure,
Overhead obstructions.
Overhead obstructions.
make sure it's not on a weak wall.
Make sure the structure is stable and not going to collapse down. Yep, make sure the ground's good. What is the desired angle of inclination when placing a ladder? 75. What types of challenges to raising and placing ladders are present in your jurisdiction? So, the buildings around here, what might be some issues you might incur whenever laddering those structures?
Uneven terrain,
Power lines.
concrete, trees.
You go up to town square and get in the street, probably awkward.
Yeah. Alright, so section 6, securing ground ladders. We're going to describe how to secure ground ladders to structures and make sure that they're safe for climbing. Two methods for securing a ladder include heeling and tying in. So heeling the ladder is when it takes more personnel to do that. It's when you have a firefighter at the base of the ladder with their feet on the butt of the ladder so that it won't slide out or move. Tying in, make sure it allows you to free up that firefighter that will be healing the ladder, and that just is tying the ladder to the structure so that it doesn't slide out. Basically, it's the same thing as healing, just without the extra manpower. Follow your department SOPs for securing ground ladders, and the process of securing ground ladder varies. It may include locking the extension ladder in place before placement, and tying the halyard with a clove hitch and an overhand safety knot. That way the halyard's secure, it's not going to move, not going to get entangled or in anybody's way. And healing and securing the ladder with an AHA-approved method. So if your department prefers you have someone healing the ladder, then you have to do it that way. If you're okay with you tying it in, then you can do it that way. Just make sure you follow the department's SOPs. So healing the ladder, is when you are healing the ladder from beneath, you stand beneath the ladder with feet about shoulder width apart, and grasp the beams at eye level and pull the ladder toward the building. When healing the ladder from the outside of the ladder, you want to stand outside of the ladder, heel the butt end with 1 foot, and place the toes against the butt spur, or 1 foot at the bottom rung, grasp the beam, and press the ladder against the building. So we'll demonstrate that whenever we go out on the training site on how to properly heal a ladder, and the 2 different methods of doing so. Whenever you're tying in, the ladder should be tied securely to a fixed object. You don't want to secure it to something that's going to move. Like you don't want to attach it to a hose cart or a hose that's mounted inside of a structure. It's not going to be very secure. You want to make sure it's attached to something that's not going to move. It's simple and can be done quickly. It's recommended to prevent the ladder from slipping or pulling away from the building. It frees personnel who would otherwise have to hold the ladder in place. So if you're a small department and you're limited on manpower, tying in is a very useful option. And it uses a rope or a hose tool or safety strap between the ladder and a fixed object. What are 2 common methods for securing a ladder?
Healing and tieback.
Yes. Alright, section 7, we're going to go over what different types of ladder raises and how to raise each type of ladder. So teamwork, smoothness, and rhythm are essential when raising and lowering fire department ladders. If you guys aren't in sync, you guys just be fighting each other, and it's just going to possibly get someone getting injured. The different methods rely on the different ladder type and the ladder size. They'll dictate the amount of people you need to raise the ladder. And the weather and topography conditions or considerations are important because you don't want to be raising a ladder on uneven surfaces or it's wet, slick, anything like that, loose surfaces. Methods and precautions for raising a single section and extension ladders are similar. The only difference is the amount of people that you need. It's not necessary to place a ladder flat on the ground before raising it, only the butt needs to be placed on the ground. So you can raise a ladder with it standing upright. You don't have to lay it down to extend the ladder, then stand it up. Transition from carrying position to raised position should be done in one smooth and continuous motion. That goes back to carrying the ladder butt section first. That way you can just stick the butt onto the ground and raise it that way. And then once you're vertical, then you can have the raising of the extension ladder to the proper height that you need it to be. One firefighter single ladder raise. Single ladders are generally wide enough that one firefighter can carry and position them. Firefighters can place the butt end at a point where it will be located for climbing without steadying it against the building or another object before raising. So you don't have to walk up, put the butt section against the building, raise it up, and then move the butt section out. You can just put the butt section on the ground, raise it up, and then lean it against the structure. And then you can adjust it to however you need it to be after that. One firefighter extension ladder raises. It could be done from a low shoulder carry. It's a different procedure for placing ladder, but is used. Building is used to heel the ladder to prevent butt from slipping while ladder is brought to the vertical position. So since the ladder is heavier and a little bit more cumbersome to use as a single firefighter, you want to put the butt section against the base of the building and the ground, and then you'll raise it up that way, and then raise it up against the building, and then slide the butt section of the ladder out to the proper angle. 2 firefighter raises. Much easier to do 2 firefighter raises with an extension ladder than it is with 1 firefighter. There's a firefighter at the butt end called the healer and is responsible for placing it at the desired distance from the building and determining whether the ladder will be raised parallel or perpendicular to the building. They will be gives the commands during the operations for raising the ladder, picking it up, all the operations of that. And the two basic ways for two firefighters to raise the ladder are the flat raise or the beam raise. So in the first picture, you see them doing the flat raise, where they have the butt section, both sections of the butt section are down, and they're raising up with the rungs facing the structure. And then the other one is the beam raise, where one section of the butt section is on the ground, and the firefighter's raising it using the beam of the ladder. 3 firefighter raises should be used to raise ladders of 35 feet or longer. Follow the same procedure for 2 firefighter flat raise. Position the 3rd firefighter along the beam. 1 firefighter will heel the butt end while the 2nd firefighter begins raising the tip, and the 3rd firefighter can either assist second at the tip or step underneath to assist in walking the ladder upright. 4 firefighter flat raise. Procedures for raising the ladder are similar to 3 firefighter raise, except for the placement of the personnel. Firefighter at ladder's butt is responsible for placing the butt at the desired distance from the building and determining whether it would be raised as a perpendicular or parallel raise to the building. Pivoting ladders with 2 firefighters. Any ladder flat raise parallel to the building requires pivoting to align it with the wall upon which it rests. So if you have to flat raise parallel to the building, that means that you probably don't have enough room to raise it perpendicular, whether that's in an alleyway or there's just overhead obstructions that you're trying to avoid. In order to move it, you'll have to pivot it and kind of like walk it down the structure to get to where you need to be. Pivot ladder on the beam closest to the structure, and whenever possible, pivot ladder before it is extended. Shifting raise ground ladders, you want to limit shifting them to just very short distances. 1 firefighter can easily shift a ladder that is 20 feet long or shorter, and because of the weight, extension ladders may require 2 firefighters for shifting. Another way to shift a ladder a short distance from side to side is to place the ladder against the building, slide the top of the ladder sideways, and pick the butt end section up and move it into position so it's aligned. Some review questions. How can 1 firefighter raise a single or extension ladder?
Front door.
Beam raise.
Or flat raise.
Yep. What situation required a firefighter to pivot a ladder that is already in place?
Ventilation crew needs to relocate.
Yes. Alright, section 8 is working from a ladder. We're going to go over how to safely operate from a ladder. So working from the ladder, you got to know how to climb a ladder, lock into the ladder, whether that's using a leg lock or a ladder harness, secure the ladder to the structure, how to properly work from the ladder, and how to carry tools and equipment up and down. What you may need to work from the ladder to accomplish the tasks is to be able to open and ventilate windows, assist victims down a ladder, and operate a hose line from a ladder. So whenever you're climbing the ladder, first you want to ascend the ladder, creating the least possible amount of bounce and sway. So you want to be smooth, rhythmic. You don't want to be jumping up and down on the ladder, climbing it sporadically. Keep your knees slightly bent while climbing to ease the weight on each rung. It just kind of helps your knees absorb your weight so the ladder's not taking the brunt of it. And the climb starts after the firefighter checks climbing angle and secures the ladder. It is your responsibility as the person climbing the ladder to make sure that it is secure and it's actually going to be safe to climb. Whenever you begin to climb, make sure you focus your eyes forward and make occasional glances at the tip of the ladder to make sure that it's not moving or slipping in either direction. Keep your arms straight during the climb and place hands on the rungs or beams. Coordinate hand and foot movement, so you want to make sure you're moving in a rhythmic manner and not throwing yourself off pace. Place your feet near the beams with halyard tied at the center of the rung. That way you avoid snagging your foot on the halyard and causing yourself to trip on a ladder. Climb using leg muscles and not your arm muscles, so you want to be more walking up the ladder. You don't want to be doing pull-ups all the way up. And practice climbing slowly to develop form first. So if you're not comfortable on the ladder, make sure you practice climbing slowly. That way you get more comfortable and efficient at it before you try to climb it quickly. So using a ladder belt when securing the ladder is basically a harness with a carabiner on it, and that just clips to the rung of the ladder. Whenever you're securing with a leg lock, you stick your leg through one through one rung, put that rung behind your knee, and then hook your foot on the rung below it or around the beam. You want to do that after you reach the desired height. You don't want to be clipping in and unclipping and doing leg lock after leg lock. Just try to get to the spot that you need to be on. Make sure you're there first before you lock yourself into that ladder. According to NFP 2500, ladder belt does not meet requirements of life safety harnesses. Do not exceed the rated load capacity of the ladder. So on the ladder, it'll specify how much the ladder can take in regards to weight. To avoid overloading the ladder, allow one firefighter on each section of the ladder at the same time, and be careful about stressing ladders laterally. Use a leg lock only when working from a ground ladder. Never use a leg lock on an aerial ladder. Extending or retracting the ladder could result in serious injury. So just keep any body parts between the rungs of an aerial ladder just in case somebody starts moving it, that way you don't get hurt. Carrying tools up and down a ladder. If you carry a tool in one hand, slide freehand along the beam rather than on rungs. That way you're keeping that point of contact instead of taking your hand off each rung, you just slide your hand up the beam. Whenever possible, use a utility rope to hoist the tools and equipment. So get up to where you need to be and then hoist the tools up rather than carrying them with you. That way you can use all points of contact and not taking one hand out of the equation. Carrying roof ladder up while climbing extension ladder. First, you want to use a low shoulder carry to carry the roof ladder to where the extension ladder has been placed for climbing. Once you're there, heel the roof ladder at the base of the extension ladder and set the ladder down. Walk back to the tip and open the hooks. Raise the ladder and rest it against the extension ladder's beam. Shoulder roof ladder before mounting extension ladder, and then climb a short distance up extension ladder, then reach through the roof ladder and shoulder it before continuing to climb the extension ladder. That way you have a nice balance point in the middle of the roof ladder, and you're not carrying from the bottom to the top. Whenever you deploy a roof ladder on a pitch roof, lock in with one leg or connect a ladder belt to an appropriate rung. Remove the ladder from your shoulder and slide it on the beam all the way up the roof with the hooks out and up to the peak. When the hooks are over the peak, turn the ladder onto both beams with the hooks pointed down and going over the peak. And make sure that the hooks are engaged on the roof. Sliding the roof ladder on both beams until hooks engage the peak is an alternate method for deploying the roof ladder. What are some guidelines for climbing a ladder?
Try and maintain 3 points of contact.
Yep.
Your hands on the slide.
Yep. Keep your hands on the beams. Make sure you're doing it smooth and rhythmically, not doing it quickly and bouncy. Keep your knees bent. What are your takeaways from this chapter?
Make sure you look above your head before you raise the ladder so you don't get into overhead obstructions.
If you do have to stop, know how you're going to lock into that ladder, whether it be ladder belt or with a leg lock.
Make sure you're going up prepared with the game plan. Yep, have tools ready.
Make sure you're familiar with your ladders and equipment.
Yes, equipment familiarization is a big part of that. Alright.
Alright, thank you, Firefighter Page. Alright, so it is 10:28. We'll take a 10-minute break, 12-minute break, come back, and we'll get started on vertical ventilation. You said bathroom's right there. There's coffee behind you and water in the fridge. So appreciate it. We're gonna leave video recording. Just leave it recording. It's fine. And we'll do about a 12-minute break.
What time are we gonna be back?
12 minutes. So 32. Or 42. 12 minutes, 42. 10:42. Yep, break time, about 10:42 we get started again. I think you did good for not being, just doing it. You did good.
Hey, Miss, how you doing? Come on, yeah, good. Hey, this is the more, man. Yeah. I didn't, I didn't really get up to that one. Yeah. Before lady was off the other side.
Station 1, still alarm medical assist, 468 West Deerwood Drive. 468 West Deerwood Drive. We have a 74-year-old male, back pain, also has cancer, needing to go to the hospital. Your cross streets, North High Street and Karen
Do you want to take it?
Park Place, Travel page 1034.
A little busy all of a sudden.
Of course, yeah.
Of course that happens.
Of course, the airport's everything looking all right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still recording for break, but.
Yep. I know, of course you have something planned in the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, boy.
You've got a third tutorial.
You're,
Receipt 3320.
what did you have to do for the project?
So supervisor, instructor two. So I got supervised, like today's Brandon and Tim going through the course. So I got supervised, I got like safety briefing, do some skills and training side. So it's got to be like a high hazard
Yeah,
training. So I'm doing power tools or ventilation.
yeah.
And then after this skill, I have to do a 4 to 6 hour video over the one I developed.
Really?
So I'm taking like campers, like pop-ups, mobile homes and stuff, and doing the class over fire operations on that, safety hazards and stuff. Other than that, we don't really go over it.
Yeah.
So not too bad.
That's good. That is good. Have a good Thanksgiving? Did, sure did. Yeah, it real good. About you guys, so.
Down in Nashville.
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't remember.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. We had Monday, Friday for a couple days.
Mike?
Yeah.
Any places?
Yeah.
Done.
Where we,
Back in the city available. 1036.
Yeah.
maybe that's, Saturday, tickets to a 3 o'clock show in, what's the bridge over in Luna for Nate Barnettsy.
And you know, it's not really like long trip.
No.
No, no, you go 24 and go down.
That's where we've been. Yeah, that's about right. That's the last, that's really easy. I don't like that drive across from what is it, Liquid to
Yeah.
Paducah. It's the worst part.
No, I don't. We don't have a lot of time. I never had that.
Yeah.
We don't have to take it.
No.
Cross.
No.
I used to. Like 46.
Yeah. 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 That's not really just a few months. All the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, so much.
Changing time.
Yeah.
I thought about 24 years ago. Man, if you watch the news, there's been wrecks there.
Is that right?
How do you find it? We didn't have any fire. Going down there, I wanted to never go over the football, and they're talking about the football. We have that. That bad, I think I could use it.
You can refer to the policy plus your work. So if there's 22 words.
The building looking up.
It is, yeah. It's been people above us, but it's pretty serious.
So it is numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Good improvement for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Long time coming.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
You know, I don't know if he's gonna make it.
He might not.
He's slow.
Yeah.
Balls.
Someday he
It's
might
like
not.
a turtle.
Yeah.
I don't like cold weather.
I've never saw anybody more energy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for sure.
Boy, working side by side anymore.
Nope. Still paying medical bills from the school.
Yeah.
If I wasn't named parent, I went to the hospital. Those moms, and they freak out. The other day, the baby hit her head. I was like, we're not going to the yard. She's fine. Jesus Christ. Yeah, and, should be, I'm getting 22 for Christmas. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We got our school, she was 22.
Oh,
That power box up there under your desk,
Yeah.
it was like, I thought the fire alarm was going off when I went there. It was making a loud beep.
Oh, it's going bad.
yeah.
Brandon finally got it shut off, but
The backup system, it's
Yeah.
going bad.
Brandon finally got it shut off.
Brandon is, grabbing like 1 or 2 more bites and then he's gonna come back on.
We should be able to have enough power to get through this rest of this class.
Do you need a charger?
I got one up in that, room.
You don't keep a spare one in your office down here?
Well, this was up there, I'll go grab it here.
What was that? There was some questions in there were like, how much work for what, what's on this.
And Jason, we talked about the ladder truck, looking at that. We're looking at specking at a tank pumper.
yeah.
We're looking at doing the SAM system, which is an automatic system to pump. It doesn't run your truck for you, but it makes it a whole lot easier. And we have the demo unit at Gordonville.
Oh, really?
I'll just bring it in, or you guys come out there, and
pretty
it's
nice.
pretty sweet. It's literally like a punch board. You have your pump handle on the thing.
Yeah.
You're literally, if you want to charge your line, you drag it and it charges.
Is that?
You can switch from hydrant to
Really?
drafting, and it senses. It's all automatic sensing, so it senses the water intake, so it open and close.
Really?
It's pretty sweet.
That'd be good.
Preset pressures.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you need to kick it into a manual mode, you still have a manual throttle, with an idle button and everything
Yeah.
that you can adjust,
Okay.
do fine adjustments.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
takes and the best, what I love the best part of it is you can do it from both sides of the truck.
Oh, no kidding.
So you pull up and your fire's on your ulcer side, and there's a screen over there, you can do it all from ulcer side.
Really?
Yeah.
If we wanna get really fancy, they make nozzles that also communicate with it, so the firefighter on the nozzle can adjust
Oh,
it
you
by
can have a-
themselves.
No
You can have a,
kidding.
individual iPad that
Yeah,
system that can walk
absolutely,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing the nozzles and the tablet, just the same system for ours is about 40,000.
I believe that.
Us poor guys in North County, we're just lucky if our nozzles come on.
Yeah. You still got the nozzles like in my office and.
Drag them off the horse and got the brass nozzles. You gotta get the horse in the wagon stopped
Yeah.
before you get the water down.
Oh, boy. That's fun.
Yeah, I'll have to bring that in next week
Yeah,
or something.
yeah.
But it's super, it's slick. Herculaneum runs them now.
Good.
There's some other ones.
Well, if I can get Vince Blake to come down.
But that's 40,000 for your whole, like pump panel setup and everything.
Oh, really? So,
Yeah.
So
Yeah, like-
you probably only seen a portion of it.
Yeah, so everything's electronic, pumps and everything. The only thing we did electronic is our deck guns is so much money.
And it auto adjusts pressures, so if you open up 2 lines, it'll auto adjust, so that way they both maintain their presets.
Wow.
If it loses pipe pressure, we shut the hydrant off, it automatically.
Yeah. Wow.
Helps for those, not having many people on the scene.
Mm-hmm, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
We still on the hard time?
Yeah, we have the same issues. He said, we're still on North County, I was like, we have the same issues we're on.
I saw one video, of the guy that,
Chief, they take out the fires I fought. I was in there by myself and somebody running the truck.
department had the tablet. I saw one video of the engineer assisting with, flaked out the line while the second guy in the truck was getting to the door. Engineer then assisted with forcible entry
Yeah.
and charged the line from his tablet as the door was getting popped open.
You run the pump, always get the hose in the door to start knocking fire down the hose. There's fire just rolling. Well, I got in about the door about 5-10 feet, that's all I got. I was just in there going fast. I come out, to go to hell, he started shooting my ass. Don't shoot back, fucking assault. Was you gonna go with me now?
I think we have all of our 10 people back, so we'll get ahead and started. Firefighter page will cover tactical ventilation, and then after this, we'll hand out the quizzes. We'll go down to the training site, perform the vertical ventilation using the power tools and the simulated roof prop. So.
Alright, so this chapter covers tactical ventilation. It kind of goes in hand in hand with the last chapter we went over, which was ladders. So in this section, we're going to describe tactical ventilation applications, safety considerations when performing the tactical ventilations, describe ventilation tools and equipment, and describe vertical ventilation procedures. So what we're going to do now is describe tactical ventilation applications, and that is planned, systematic, and coordinated removal of heated air, smoke, gases, airborne contaminants from a structure, and replacing those contaminants and gases with cooler and fresher air. It is used during overhaul and the loss control to evacuate smoke from structures after extinguishment. And it involves creation of openings in the structure or closing, covering of openings. So that kind of helps control the flow path and get the smoke out in the most efficient way possible. Firefighters can control the flow of oxygen, smoke, and hot gases, and they do that to control the rate of fire growth and spread. So if you close a door to a room, the fire takes a longer time to get through that room or into that room. And it also is to support suppression and rescue operations, to make internal conditions better for the people that are trapped inside and allow firefighters to see around them a lot easier. Emphasize the controlling oxygen availability. Allows firefighters to control where hot gases and smoke exit, and that is basically through the control of flow paths. Whether you open one window on one side of the building and open it at the other end and then push positive pressure ventilation through there. It may improve visibility, may not, depending on how fast the fire is growing and the intensity of the situation. And exhaust openings can facilitate removal of smoke or toxic gases following the extinguishment of a fire. What are some situations in which firefighters would use tactical ventilation? Yes, rescue.
Overhaul.
Due to stricter energy codes, modern buildings will have fewer leaks that allow airflow into and out of the structure. So you won't have as much uncontrolled air passing through the structure, which can be beneficial or hinder your operations. This could increase the amount of heat and products of combustion trapped in the structure, and it can affect fire growth and behavior and require tactical ventilations and operations to remove them. So tactical ventilation and fire suppression operations must be coordinated to maximize the effectiveness of both. Personnel should receive the following specific instructions regarding when and where to ventilate. That allows coordinated efforts and keeps fire from spreading to different locations of the structure. That way, if somebody's inside and you open a window, you don't get backdraft affected to them or anything like that. Breaking windows unnecessarily or freelancing disrupts the ventilation strategy. It causes you to lose control of the flow path and allows the fire to spread wherever it wants to. And as heat and smoke become exhausted, firefighting crews can move closer to the scene of the fire for extinguishment. Visibility just becomes better, fire operations go more smoothly. Growing fire can generate temperatures that exceed limitations of structural PPE. So if fires are getting too hot, they can start breaking down your PPE, making it less effective. When fresh air from ventilation is introduced to an oxygen-limited fire, heated gases can quickly reignite, causing rapid fire development. So that is important in controlling the flow path, doing strategic ventilations, not just popping windows left and right. Even if ventilation appears to be effectively cooling the interior and removing smoke and gases, period of effectiveness is likely short-lived. So you got to remember that you're introducing a whole bunch of fresh air to the fire, so it's going to cause it to grow and produce more smoke and gases and heat. Additional oxygen from ventilation allows fire to grow toward flashover. Ventilation and water application are both necessary to bring a fire under control. Alright, so how can firefighters control the flow path of fire and smoke during tactical ventilation?
By strategically opening those ventilation points, so you know where the fire is going to go, rather than just opening all of them.
Yes. Closing doors, opening windows, allowing the flow of oxygen through the building to go in a certain direction. What can you do to reduce rapid fire development, potentially during tactical ventilation?
Lid fell off.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't need to be open.
Make sure you're not putting air where it don't need to.
Exactly. Make sure you keep the lid closed and the windows unbroken. Alright, so removing hot gases and smoke. During ventilation, gases flow from the interior to the exterior because heated, buoyant gases tend to rise and move to areas of lower pressure. So they're just inside, they're trying to get out to a lower pressure environment. Primary mode of heat transfer from one department to another in a structure fire is through convection. Adding ventilation to a ventilation limited fire will increase generation of heat and smoke because you're adding basically oxygen to the fire, allowing it to burn faster and hotter. Ventilation openings introduce oxygen, and they must be made to allow smoke, heat, and toxic gases to escape. So tactical ventilation benefits. Tactical ventilation implemented during or immediately after suppression activities can create an interior environment or egress path with the following more tenable conditions. So it is increased oxygen concentration, reduced concentration of toxic byproducts of combustion, reduced temperature levels, increased visibility to aid in firefighting operations and primary search conditions, or operations. So it clears out the smoke, you can see better, do your job better, find people that are trapped better. So one caution is to, once the structure fire has become ventilation limited, additional ventilation will cause dangerous fire growth and spread. So that is where fire suppression tactics come in handy, and you have to use them kind of side by side. That way you kind of keep the fire under control and don't let it just grow exponentially from the increase of oxygen. Application for life safety is the highest priority. It is a coordinated tactical ventilation. It can be used to alter exhaust portion of flow path away from trapped occupants. So that is good for keeping doors closed and not introducing fire and smoke and toxic gases into places where people could be. Strategically opening windows and controlling the flow path. It still allows oxygen in the structure and may be needed to create tenable egress areas for firefighters and injured or trapped occupants. How should tactical ventilation be organized with search and rescue crews?
There should be constant communication between your interior search crew and your ventilation crew, as well as with your incident commander, so that way you're not ventilating at the wrong time, potentially pushing smoke and all that heat into your search crew, but rather pulling it away from them.
Yeah, introducing oxygen to a very gas-rich environment that's heated can cause flashover, so if somebody's in that environment, you can potentially hurt them or cause a casualty. Safety considerations when ventilating. We're going to identify safety considerations when performing tactical ventilation operations. Unless identified during pre-fire planning or size-up, firefighters should make 2 assumptions about any structure fire to guide their decisions when ventilating a structure. And it is if the structure itself consists of lightweight construction, and if the fire inside the structure is ventilation limited. Successful tactical ventilation conducted in conjunction with the fire attack depends on careful planning, communication of scene observations and incident command, systematic application of procedures for removing contaminants, and coordination with other fireground activities. So that goes for search and rescue, other people that are inside the structure. Recognition that all opening allows ventilation. So that goes back to keeping doors closed, controlling your entrances and exits, and not just going around breaking all the windows whenever you get to a scene. Now, they also have to recognize advantages and disadvantages of environmental conditions, so which way the wind's blowing, the temperature outside, any of those can dictate which way and how you're going to perform the tactical ventilations. Situational awareness, communicating observations when assigned a task is essential for your safety. You see something that's unsafe, say something. Don't continue doing it if it's going to cause yourself or anybody else harm. Aspects of situational awareness can be directly applied to tactical ventilation size-up factors and should be communicated to crew members and or supervisors. So some of the size-up factors are the location and extent of the fire, changes to fire behavior, whether it's the spread, the growth, anything like that. Effective ventilation will have on fire and or exposures. Effectiveness of planned ventilation. Locations where smoke is escaping the structure. So that's, if smoke is escaping from the structure, that's already a point of ventilation. The type of building construction and the signs of rapid fire development. Building structural integrity is another size-up factor. Locations of overhead power lines, solar panels, and guide wires. So that goes back to being safe, situationally aware. Location of 2 escape locations for roof crews. So that goes back to the ladder chapter, where you have to have 2 points of egress. And so if you have people on the roof, you want to throw 2 ladders to the roof, or have a ladder and aerial set up. That way they have 2 ways of getting off the roof. Coordination of fireground operations with ventilation. So you don't want to just be ventilating all over the place, not coordinating with the guys that are inside trying to suppress the fire, because you don't want to work together to get that job completed. And you also have to pay attention to wind direction and strength. So So what two assumptions should firefighters make about a structure fire to guide their decisions when ventilating a structure?
How involved structure is?
Mm-hmm.
The, type of construction,
Type of construction. Environmental factors such as wind speed, direction, temperature. List some of the tactical ventilation size up factors.
like you said, environmental conditions, your wind speed, your temperatures, those kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Your overhead obstructions. If there's anything mounted to the roof, like solar panels.
Mm-hmm. So also like the location of the fire, anything like that, smoke coming out of the structure. Wind conditions. So any opening in a building allows the surrounding atmosphere to affect what's happening inside the building. So if a window's already open, or if the roof naturally ventilated itself by burning through, that's already an opening and it's allowing oxygen from the outside in, and that can be expedited with wind conditions. Whenever possible, firefighters should use wind to their advantage during ventilation. So you want to make sure that if you're ventilating a structure, that you're using the wind to be able to push through and not just rely on positive pressure ventilation equipment. Wind as slow as 10 miles per hour can affect structure fires, potentially causing them to become more wind-driven. If winds are at these speeds or higher, firefighters are safest working from the wind at their backs. That way you don't have all the smoke, heat, gases, fire, all that getting pushed into you. It's actually kind of getting pushed away from you. Before selecting a place to ventilate, gather as much information as possible about the location and the extent of the fire, type of building construction that you're working with, the floor layout of the structure so that you know where all the rooms are, hallways, windows, all that, and the type of occupancy it is so that you know if there might be people in bedrooms or anything like that, so you're not ventilating towards those bedrooms or through those bedrooms. As a firefighter, you will be instructed on where to ventilate, and it is your responsibility to communicate observations or concerns about performing ventilation. If you see something that's not safe or something that looks out of the ordinary, or you notice something that somebody else didn't see, radio that to incident command and let them know and get them aware of that situation. Roof integrity is a very important thing to keep an eye on whenever you're doing vertical ventilation. Prior knowledge of the roof's construction and building layout can help gauge the roof integrity. Lightweight roof trusses are important to know about because those will burn through quicker. Open floor plans under wide expanses with limited truss support, so like vaulted ceilings and stuff like that, they're not going to have the same kind of truss support underneath the roof. And prior structural damage to the roof, so whether it's like rotted wood, any sort of hail damage, anything like that, can cause structural integrity or lower structural integrity of the roof. Some model building codes require placarding or signage on structures to indicate the presence of lightweight construction, most notably floor and roof systems. So why might that be important?
It gives you a kind of indicator that you're working with lightweight construction before you even make your attempt to get onto the roof.
That way you kind of know what kind of support you'll have on the roof and how fast it'll burn through some flooring and all that stuff, and how much water is on there, and how quickly it'll fail. If roof ventilation is ordered, ventilation teams should assess the integrity of the roof before stepping onto it through sounding, use of thermal imagers, presence of smoke and fire penetration. So if the roof doesn't look like it can hold your weight, don't get up there, even if you're told to do so. Continue to check roof ahead of their progress as they cross it. So always constantly sounding the roof in front of you whenever you're performing ventilation operations. If fire has vented through or has been burning under roof prior to the fire department arrival, roof ventilation should not be considered until after the fire has been suppressed and roof structure can be evaluated. So fire's already burned through the roof and it's already self-vented itself. So there's really no point in getting up there and cutting more holes. It's just going to keep further weakening the structural integrity of the roof. So it kind of hinder the amount of firefighting you do inside the structure because it causes the roof to come down prematurely. In lightweight construction, the sounding of the roof may not accurately reflect the actual integrity of the roof. So just because the roof sounds like it sounds does not mean that the trusses underneath it aren't completely burnt through. It just means that the decking is still sound. Indications of possible roof collapse, melting asphalt, smoke coming from the roof, fire coming from the roof, building system sagging, and spongy roof. So if you're looking at the building and you can't see the roof sagging down, that means that it's probably not very good to get up there, and it's probably going to come down pretty quickly. Some roofs are spongy with no fire involvement. It is important to know the roof types that are present in the response area. So on some of the commercial structures, if you go on top, they have that kind of weather lining on top of it, and walking on it, feels kind of spongy already. So even if it feels spongy like that and it's not involved with fire, just kind of keep an eye on that. Just something to be mindful about. Continued communication. Ventilation teams should be in communication with other crews at the scene, and they should be receiving updates on progress of the fire and observed conditions. Whenever you're in the fire or you're on the roof, you're not seeing the whole big picture. That's the whole benefit of having an incident command set up. That way they can communicate, hey, the roof's sagging in this spot, it's burning through over here. That way they can communicate to the crews and get them out of there off the roof. The roof begins to lose integrity during roof ventilation operations. Evaluate the roof immediately and notify command. So if you notice that the roof's starting to feel kind of spongy while you're up there, radio to command and inform them of that. How can internal and external exposures affect tactical ventilation? Not all at once. All right, so internal exposures are lightweight construction. Anything like that will burn through a lot quicker, so you have to be able to ventilate layout of the house, so which rooms are involved, keep the doors closed, which windows you need to open. External exposures such as wind, so wind speed and direction, that's something you consider. Depending on which way the wind's blowing, how fast it's blowing, it can grow the fire quickly. And temperatures outside and rain conditions, all that. How can firefighters check a roof's integrity for roof ventilation?
Sounding, listening for signs.
Yep.
For signs of roof integrity.
Sounding it, checking for sagging, if the roof's already been burnt through, smoke's coming from the roof, any of those things are important to pay attention to. Alright, so think about structures in your area. How might they impact ventilation operations?
So I know we've got a few residential structures in this area that have some pretty steep pitched roofs, so that's going to make it a little bit harder to actually get up there and properly ventilate. Our commercial structures do sometimes have that weather layering, like you were talking about, that makes them naturally spongy without any fire. So that might cause people to be a little more cautious about getting onto them.
And some roofs, people don't re-shingle them properly, they just keep the old shingles on there, they just have layers and layers and layers of shingles. Older houses, the ceilings will have lath and plaster, so it'll be really hard to punch through that whenever you do cut a hole in the roof. Just basically the age of the structure and the type of maintenance that's been performed to over the years could play a big part in it. Describe ventilation tools and equipment. So ground and roof ladders help firefighters access locations to be used for ventilation. So second floor windows, getting on roofs. Thermal imagers serve as useful tools for monitoring the impact of ventilation or for identifying possible ventilation locations. So there might be heat and gases coming out of the eaves of parts of that roof or anything like that, and it might not have smoke coming with it, because it might just be burning all that off, and thermal imager will be able to show you those heat waves coming out of that opening. So there's different tools you can use for creating openings. You can use an axe, a saw, and a pipe pole. Pipe pole is primarily used for after you've already cut a hole in the roof to punch through the ceiling. That way you're able to get all those gases and heat and all that bad stuff out. Ventilation tools and equipment should receive routine inspection and maintenance. That way you make sure that the saws are working, nothing's rusted, the handle of the pipe pole and axe aren't cracked and falling apart. You gotta follow the manufacturer's maintenance instructions. So don't be taking stuff apart and using lubricants on stuff that's not supposed to be on there. Inspection and maintenance should be well documented in appropriate inspection and maintenance logs. That way you kind of keep a paper trail of what's all been done to it. So if something fails, you know when it was done and when it was checked off last. Equipment that fails inspection should be marked out of service, and with that, you should also notify one of your commanding officers on why it's out, and so they can pass along the chain of command so it can get fixed. The AHJ should establish SOPs that outline common items to be inspected, inspection and maintenance schedule, level of maintenance firefighters should provide, when non-firefighting personnel should perform the maintenance, and procedures for documenting inspection and maintenance. And what specific tools may be used for tactical ventilation? Axe. Chainsaw. Yep. Vertical ventilation. Describe vertical ventilation procedures. So vertical ventilation involves creating openings in a roof using existing openings to channel smoke, hot gases, and products of combustion out of the structure. So the existing openings could be skylights, anything like that. For vertical ventilation to be effective, a horizontal inlet opening at or below the level of the fire is needed to provide a flow path for fresh air to enter the structure. So just because you got a hole in the roof does not mean everything's going to be coming out of that roof, because if everything's still down inside the house with no way of having a flow path to push it through the roof, it's just going to keep burning in there. Vertical ventilation is time and labor intensive, and available resources need to be considered. So smaller departments like ours, where we'll have 2 trucks there at first, vertical ventilation is probably not going to be available until we have mutual aid companies on scene. Presents with the following increased risks. So vertical ventilation requires you to place personnel above ground level, which always increases the fall risk and can cause injury or death. Working on both peak and flat surfaces pose different challenges. You're working above the fire, and fire grows upwards, heat and everything rises. Working on roofs that may have been weakened because of age or fire damage. So all that is going back to just being situationally aware and being cognizant of the integrity of the roof. Common factors reducing effectiveness are improper use of mechanical ventilation. So that is like your positive pressure ventilation, uncoordinated ventilation, so people going around freelancing, breaking windows, opening doors, not closing doors behind them, adds to the flow path and is just uncoordinated and can lead to tougher firefighting operations. Fog streams directed into ventilation openings, burning through the roof, floor, or walls, additional openings between attack team and upper opening, and proper location of the vertical ventilation opening. Safety precautions is to work with wind at your back or side when cutting a roof opening to protect yourself from heat, smoke, and embers. Ensure that main structural components and supports do not get cut when creating a ventilation opening. We cut through the trusses underneath the decking of the roof that can significantly weaken the roof and cause collapse. Guard the ventilation opening to prevent personnel from falling into it. Evacuate the roof promptly when ventilation work is completed or when ordered to leave, so don't just linger up there. Use lifelines, roof ladders, or other means to prevent personnel from sliding and falling off the roof. So that can be whether you just have lines up there that people are just harnessed into, or you have roof ladders that were carried up and laid on the roof. Make sure a roof ladder, if used, is firmly secured over the peak. So make sure those hooks are firmly seated on the peak of the roof and it's not going to slide or come unhooked. Exercise caution when working around electrical wires, solar panels, and guide wires. They all carry a lot of current, so make sure that if you are working around there that they've been killed and that they are dead lines. Ensure all personnel on the roof are wearing full PPE, includes the SCBA, and that they are wearing the mask and breathing SCBA air. Just because you're up high doesn't mean that the smoke's not going to get you. Stay out of range of those who are swinging axes and operating power saws. You don't want to get in somebody's striking path of the axe and get hit. Remain aware of overhead obstructions within the range of your swing. So if you're swinging an axe, make sure you're not going to snag some tree branches or power lines or anything like that. Start the power tool on the ground to make sure that you know that it's going to be working when you get to the roof. And when using a power saw, make sure the angle of the cut is away from your body. You don't want cutting with the blade coming towards you. You kind of want to have it going away from you. That way it gets away from you, it's not gonna hit you. Extend ground ladders at least 3 rungs above the edge of the roof or the top of the parapet wall and secure the ladder to the wall or roof. When operating from aerial ladder platforms, the floor of the platform should be even with or slightly above the roof level. That way you're not stepping off the roof, you're stepping onto the roof. Check the roof for structural integrity before stepping onto it and use all available methods to continue to monitor the roof's structural integrity throughout the operation. So that's important because even though you're on the roof, you might not be able to see all that's going on with it, so it's important to have somebody on the ground keeping an eye on roof sag or different areas of the roof that are starting to burn through. Before and after ventilating, walk around load-bearing walls in the strongest point of the roof structure whenever possible. When the roof has been opened, penetrate the ceiling below to enhance ventilation. You gotta remember there's drywall and all that other stuff below that roof level, so if you don't punch through that, you're not gonna get as much smoke and heat and toxic gases out as you would without doing that. Roof ladders do not increase firefighter safety on fire-weakened roofs. So just get a roof ladder on there does not mean it's gonna be safer, because if the roof underneath that roof ladder is also compromised, that roof ladder is just gonna go through the same deal. Never direct a fog stream into a vertical exhaust opening with interior attack crews that are inside the structure. It will force smoke, heat, and steam down on them. So sounding the roof, you strike a surface with the blunt end of a pipe pole, rubbish fork, or rubbish hook, or axe to determine its structural integrity. When the tool strikes roofs with intact sheathing will feel solid and the tool will tend to bounce off the surface. Striking the roof will only determine if the sheathing is intact. It won't tell you anything about the trusses or anything underneath the roof. Sounding the roof does not provide enough information to ensure the roof's structural integrity. It should not be the only means used to determine the stability of the roof. Tools for roof cutting operations include rotary saws, carbide tip chainsaws, and chainsaws with adaptive features are excellent for roof cutting operations. The rotary saws will be used mostly on like the big commercial structures that have very thick roofs and all that tar and all that stuff up there that was done with the chainsaw. Faster and less damaging than axes and other manual cutting tools. Saw operator must have good footing and maintain control at all times. That way you don't have a saw swinging around whenever you start falling or anything like that. When working on a pitched roof from a roof ladder, an axe, rubbish hook, or halligan can be used to provide a secure foothold for the saw operator. So that way you can stick the halligan or the axe into the roof below where you're cutting. You can swing your foot out and stand on that in order to be able to reach a little bit further to cut further out. Safest to turn off saw when it is being transported to or from point of operation, especially when climbing or descending a ladder. That's why it's important to test your equipment before you even take it to the roof and start it on the ground. Turn it off, hoist it up there, and then get it running again once you're on the roof. Responsibilities of the roof ventilation team leader is to ensure that safety of all personnel who are assisting with ventilation operations is being accounted for. Ensuring only required openings are made, so people aren't just cutting holes wherever they want to. Directing efforts to minimize secondary damage, so don't want to be cutting holes over places that aren't involved. Coordinating teams' efforts with firefighters inside the building. Ensuring there are 2 means of egress from the roof. Don't get on the roof if there are 2 means of egress. Ensuring an adequate exhaust opening size. Ensuring teams leave as soon as assignment is complete. That way they're not just lingering on top of the roof. If the fire is ventilation limited and the roof is open prior to the application of water, rapid fire growth may occur, endangering interior crews. So you don't want to start cutting holes in roofs before they start getting water on the fire. Work in groups of at least 2, but with no more personnel than absolutely necessary to perform the assigned task. More people on a roof is just more added weight to the roof and can cause it to fail. Inspection holes, they help to determine the location of the fire, presence of fire below the roof, and construction features of the roof. So you can cut a smaller hole in the roof to see what you're working with, whether there's a lot of shingles, what kind of decking there is, there's fire underneath there. Comparing Observations from multiple inspection holes can provide information about fire spread. So those inspection holes allow you to move around the roof and cut little holes without fully ventilating. That way you can kind of figure out where you need to be. They're used in offensive and defensive ventilation operations, and the two primary types are curve cuts and triangular cuts. The curve cut is the easiest and fastest inspection hole to cut. You just make a single cut in the roof surface using a rotary saw, chainsaw, or axe. Resulting hole should be the width of the saw or axe blade. The only information a curve cut provides is whether or not smoke or flame is escaping from the cut. You can't really see through it. The triangle cut may provide a better view of conditions beneath the roof, but will also provide a larger ventilation opening. It uses a power saw and cut. The cut can be created from a single curve cut, or if conditions indicate a need for it, conditions of 3 overlapping cuts that form a triangle. If fire is present, report information to IC and suspend ventilation. Heated smoke, gases, and sometimes fire will exit the inspection hole. What safety precautions should you observe when performing vertical ventilation?
Make sure you've got all of your PPE on, including your SCBA and actually on there.
Okay. Make sure the roof is sound, not sagging or anything like that. Make sure you have a roof ladder and proper tools with you. What are the responsibilities of the roof ventilation team leader?
Safety of the team.
Safety of the team. Describe the difference between a curve cut and a triangle cut.
Curve cuts, one cut, circular saw, triangle cut for chance.
Yes. Alright, vertical ventilation methods. Vertical ventilation involves making an opening that allows an exhaust opening for heated gases and smoke. The type of exhaust opening and method for making it will depend on the type of materials of the roof in which the opening is being made. Before making actual cuts in the roof, you got to keep in mind the importance of coordinating the ventilation with the fire suppression activities in order to create an effective exhaust vent. So just like from before, you cut a hole in the roof, it's going to lead to rapid fire growth if there's not crews inside actively putting water on the fire. Ventilating flat roofs, so square or rectangular openings are the most common types for ventilating a flat roof. Opening can be made between roof trusses, with the truss in the middle of the opening. A louver cut is used in that instance. Ventilating shingled covered pitch roofs. So you want to cut a few inches below the peak on downwind side. Always cut exhaust openings at or very near the highest point on the roof when possible. Working from a roof ladder with the hooks attached to the ridge line, and on extremely steep roofs, it may be necessary to work from an aerial apparatus, just because it'll be too steep for you to stand on. Some existing flat roof buildings may have an added pitched rain or snow roof on top of the flat roof. So you might get on there, cut a hole in the roof, and then there's just another flat roof underneath it. Ventilating slate or tile covered pitch roofs. Slate and tile roof covering may be attached to solid sheathing or battens that have spaces between them. Removing individual roofing tiles or using a large sledgehammer to smash them are both viable methods. If the subroof is solid, a ventilation hole should be cut in the standard manner for pitch roofs, and a hole may not need to be cut in the battens if there is enough space between them for ventilation to take place. Metal roofs, they're thin metal roofs. They can be sliced open with an axe, carbide tip chainsaw, or rotary saw and peeled back. Metal cutting tools or power saws with cutting blades can be used to open thick metal roofs. Older buildings may have roofs made of large pieces of sheet metal laid over skip sheathing. Use power saws, axes, or large sheet metal cutters for those. Skylight hazards. Metal roofs sometimes have skylight panels that may not support the weight of a firefighter, so don't be walking around on skylights. They should identify skylights and avoid them. There may be designated safe walking areas on these roofs, and when in doubt, assume skylights will not support your weight. According to building codes, solar panels are supposed to be equipped with walk pads. Firefighters should know the weight restrictions for such panels in their jurisdictions. creating trench cuts. The purpose of a trench cut is to create a defensible line ahead of the fire spread. Trench cuts are created ahead of the advancing fire. How far ahead is based upon the fire's rate of growth. So if it's advancing pretty quickly and growing pretty fast, you want to have it quite a bit of ways out in front of it. That way, when you're done cutting it, it's not already past where you're cutting. Trench cuts should be created only in coordination with other vertical ventilation openings. So multiple steps to a trench cut. The first is to make 2 parallel cuts that extend from one exterior wall to the opposite exterior wall, leaving decking in place until the fire is in close proximity to the trench, as determined by inspection cuts. Remove roof material between the cuts when the fire nears the cut, and the distance between the cuts should be large enough to prevent fire from burning past the opening and small enough not to compromise the roof integrity. And the trench cut should be 4 or more feet wide and extend the width of the building. Advantages of a trench cut, it can be used to establish a defensive position in the attic space with a fire attack among structures with a common attic. So if you have like a duplex that has just one attic going all the way across and you have a firewall, kind of help with preventing that from going to the next building over. And it works really well in large buildings. The disadvantage of a trench cut is that it can place firefighters in a dangerous position of working ahead of the fire. It can be time-consuming or physically taxing on personnel, and if created improperly or at the wrong time, it can cause the fire to spread more rapidly and potentially destroy the structure. What are the methods of ventilating a metal roof?
Depending on the thickness of the roof, you can use axes, chainsaws. If it's thicker, you might have to use a rotary saw or specific sheet metal cutting tools.
Okay. What is the purpose of a trench cut?
Stop the fire spread.
Stop the fire spread. That's right. What types of roofs are common in your area, and how does their construction affect ventilation methods?
Some of our commercial buildings have parapet roofs.
Mm-hmm. So it takes a little bit more effort to get on top of them and get off of them.
Some will have that rubber membrane on the top, which put them on the chainsaw if you're trying to use a chainsaw.
Yep. Alright, what are your takeaways from this chapter? What do you guys learn?
There's a lot of different considerations that you have to take into account before actually stepping onto a roof. Making sure all your equipment's functioning properly, the conditions of the roof itself, knowing where to ventilate.
Make sure you're coordinating with the crews inside so you don't cause flashover on them or don't spray down into the opening. All that stuff. Alright.
Alright, appreciate it, Firefighter Page. So we're going to hand out a quiz now for the ground liners and vertical ventilation. When you're done, please put it face down, and then we will give directions about going to the training site to do the vertical ventilation practical skill portion. Alright, this is the practical skill portion of our ground ladder and vertical ventilation classroom portion. So we'll do assigned instructors. So Brandon Page will be assisting on the ground level with making sure the ladder placement is correct. Instructor Tim Blackroft will be up on the training prop, which is a simulated pitch roof for vertical ventilation. So he'll be up there with you guys. We'll break up into engine companies to make sure we all have proper roles. So we will set our ladders, make sure they're secure, tie them off or butt them, and then we will extend the ladder, do a proper ventilation on vertical ventilation opening using your power tools, so chainsaw, and then make sure you sound the roof and go through the whole motions of properly opening the vertical ventilation. We'll essentially have 2 companies here. Like I said, you guys will be in groups of 2, so you'll work together to accomplish that goal. Looking for proper PPE, so SCBAs with your mask on, the structural gloves, no extrication gloves, and helmets on because we are high hazard training. We don't need anybody getting hurt today. We're going to follow our SOP 108.4, which is ground ladders and vertical ventilation. So in that outlines the proper procedures we will follow for today's training. Does anybody have any questions? So I'll be the safety officer working with the other two instructors of this course. Do I have any questions before we get started?
Sure.
Okay.
So for the evolution, what we're going to do is we're going to run it like a real scenario where you guys are going to come off the truck. You guys are going to grab the ladders, ladder the roof line, take a roof ladder up, and then take a chainsaw and a pike pole up and work in teams of 2 to simulate ventilating the roof. All right?
Sounds good.
All right. So if you guys want to split up into teams of 2, kind of keep it together. So we'll do Zach and David, or Zach and Jimmy, and Davis and Brighton.
Sounds good.
Then Chief Davey and Captain Ferrari, you guys are going to be team safeties. So whichever team you want to take over.
Remember, full PPE. Watch for safety issues. You guys can go whenever you're ready. Yeah, it says, yeah. Just work together. You should have another guy up there on the roof. Or at least at the top of the ladder. You guys can?
Looking for overheads.
All right. Thanks for putting down your face shield.
I don't think it's helmet now.
Yep, ready for the next crew. Well, ready to get going? Yep, let's do it. Hey, make sure you guys put your gloves on. Man, instruction. Safety. Yeah.
What, can you kill the truck? Yeah, it should be okay for now, so we're done. You want hooked in, don't you?
Alright, let's move everything back in the trucks. We'll get together for some final remarks.
Alright, good. Ready? I appreciate everybody coming out and helping me with my Instructor 2 project. Just some final remarks over this vertical ventilation ground ladder training. So, just always remember safety aspects of these training scenarios. Make sure you wear proper PPE, structural gloves. We followed our correct policy and procedure about how we operate today on the simulated fire ground and our training. Instructors, you got any feedback on anything that you taught or here today?
It went smoothly. Everyone performed safely and operated effectively.
Tim?
You all operated within your SOGs and SOPs, so happy with that.
Okay. Any feedback from you guys on anything you would change?
Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.